Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is the game preview. Everton taking on Manchester United on Sunday afternoon, 4:30 kickoff at Goodison Park, under the lights, on the television, playing against the biggest club in the country, arguably the biggest club in world football, a fixture that will be watched by millions and millions of people all across the world. The premium fixture of the weekend, Sunday afternoon, 4:30 kickoff, live on Sky Sports as part of their Super Sunday setup. What a brilliant opportunity for every single Evertonian in and around Goodison Park to let our feelings be known during, before and after that game of football. This game could not have come at a more perfect time for Everton in regards to it being on television, in regards to it being against the Manchester United side who haven't been fantastic away from home this season. They are sixth in the Premier League and they are currently top of the form table, I believe. 10 points in their last 12 games. It might even be 12 in their last 12 games. I'm pretty sure it's 10 though. And as I said, the fan base that they have worldwide, the eyes that will be watching this game, even just because it's Manchester United, there'll be people watching this game that probably haven't even got a clue about Everton's 10-point deduction and probably don't care about Everton's 10-point deduction, but they will be watching this game of football because Manchester United are involved. And as I said, what a perfect way for us as Evertonians to let our feelings be known towards the Premier League. It's a strange one to talk about this because usually we sit down on these previews and we talk about the opposition team, we talk about the situation that they're in, the management, their players, the fact that it's at Goodison Park and we'll have the advantage in that sense. But this one is very, very, very different, of course. Over the course of the last 7 days or so, we obviously found out that Everton had been deducted 10 points by an independent commission, which we've since found out wasn't very independent because it actually had ex-members of staff of Premier League football clubs on it, as well as other people that were associated with the Premier League. Of course, the fallout over the last 7 days or so has been something that I think a lot of us, have ultimately took a disdain to, and not took a disdain to the fallout, but obviously took a disdain to the actual punishment in itself. A 10-point deduction for breaching one not financial fair play, I'll get it right, profit and sustainability rule of the Premier League by £20 million. And to be hit with the biggest punishment ever to be given out for the Premier League club, despite the fact that we've had Premier League clubs before who have gone into administration and only been hit with a 9-point deduction. We've had Premier League clubs before who have admitted to signing players in a way in which would be deemed illegal and deemed to be breaking the rules. They have only been hit with fines. We've had Championship clubs now who are wanting to sue Everton in the form of Leicester, who actually broke financial rules when they were promoted to the Premier League. So if Leicester are, wanting to sue Everton because of what happened with their relegation, then I think Everton are in their right mind to sue Leicester for the fact that they shouldn't have even been in the Premier League in the first place. And it's caused this huge sort of conversation about profit and sustainability and about obviously, the situations with other football clubs as well. Why have Everton been deducted 10 points for one breach of profit and sustainability of only £20 million when certain mitigating circumstances were not taken into consideration, such as a war which literally stopped us from bringing in hundreds of millions of pounds worth of sponsorship money. We also had the situation with Player X, as he has been known an awful lot across the media over the last 7 days or so, in which we were told we weren't allowed to play Player X and he had to be suspended. He then left the football club for nothing and just so happened to be our most expensive signing of all time, who we 150% could have gotten at least 10 or 15 million pound for. That wasn't taken into consideration, and various other factors that the Premier League and its independent commission decided to ignore because, they didn't deem them necessary in Everton's case as to why they lost £20 million. £20 million, by the way, which is probably the average salary for a squad player at Chelsea. £20 million, which is... In footballing terms, in this day and age, £20 million will buy you what? Probably a bang average central midfielder, maybe a semi-decent defender, and as I said, a bang average forward player for £20 million. And yeah, Everton have been hit with the biggest points deduction ever given out to a Premier League club. We know the motive. I think there is a lot of people now that are starting to ask questions. There's a lot of people now that are starting to sort of look at the Premier League and think, well, why have they been given a 20-point deduction when Manchester City, who have broken or have been found guilty have been charged with 115 cases of P&R breaches, why they haven't had anything done to them? Chelsea, who have admitted to years and years of financial mismanagement, going back from even as far as 2009, which is quite interesting, really, because, all of these clubs, Leeds and Leicester and Burnley and Southampton, are wanting to sue Everton because they believe that Everton spending an extra £20 million on a stadium is the reason as to why their football club were relegated, when in reality the reason they were relegated is because they were and still are shit at football for the most part. But it's interesting, that, isn't it, really, because I think now Everton have got grounds to sue Chelsea because 2009 FA Cup final, Everton lost that game of football. Chelsea, have spoken and openly admitted about financial mismanagement for a number of years, and therefore Everton should be handed the FA Cup in 2009. If this is how we're working things, then that's absolutely fine. Reality of the situation is that ain't going to happen, and neither are half the threats that are on the internet that, at the moment about Everton being fined, because ultimately it's nigh on impossible to prove what these clubs are trying to prove, and it opens a massive Pandora's box for everybody to just sue everybody, and then what's the point? But like I said, this is the perfect opportunity for us as fans to show our feeling towards the Premier League. We've obviously seen a lot of support for Evertonians over the last week or so. We've seen a lot of MPs and various different people in the world of football, and not in the world of football as well, coming together to talk about their feeling about the punishment, and the majority of them feel that it is extremely harsh and it doesn't actually quite match the crime that was committed. Nobody is saying that Everton haven't broken the rules, by the way. There seems to be this weird obsession across social media, and certainly in my comment section over the last week, that people have had this obsession of, well, you broke the rules and you cheated, therefore blah de blah de blah. Nobody is saying Everton didn't break the rules, and nobody for 1 minute is saying that Everton's board are fantastic and brilliant and shouldn't be criticised. The reason I haven't spoken an awful lot about the board over the last week or so is because the board that put us in this financial mess and this position are not the same board that are at the football club currently. Denise Barrett, Baxendale, Grant Ingles, Graham Sharp, all have left the football club. Obviously, we know the sad news about Bill Kenwright's passing. The only person that is still at this football club, that was a prominent figure at this football club whilst all of this financial mismanagement was going on, was Farhad Moshiri, and Farhad Moshiri is desperately trying to get out of this football club, and the sooner he does, the better for everybody. So I know, and I'm not stupid, I know 100% that the reason Everton are in this position is because we've been managed disgracefully for the last 5 or 6 years, and anybody that thinks that I'm not willing to say that, or don't want to approach that argument, or don't want to approach the fact that Everton have cheated, then you clearly haven't watched any of my content in the last year, because I've spent the last 12 months nigh on every week coming on and talking about how awful the board are and how much we need to remove them, and this proves the point. However, that doesn't mean that Everton should be given a 10-point deduction for one financial breach of £20 million. As I've said before, and I will say it again, if you are walking in the park and you walk past a police officer and your dog shits next to a tree and you walk away and don't pick it up, that police officer will give you a fine and maybe a community note or whatever it might be to not do it again, a warning. You would not get 45 years in a maximum security prison because the punishment would not meet the crime, and that's exactly the situation that we're in at the moment. So we've all seen, as I said, the support amongst Evertonians over the last week or so to come together to, as I said, allow and let our feelings be known towards the Premier League and towards this independent commission that have made this decision. We are going to do a separate video on talking about the 1878 group, who obviously have come together, raised, I think, over £25,000, something like that, maybe even over £30,000 for banners and for a plane to fly across the Etihad tomorrow. I believe the reason for that is because by the time we get to Goodison on Sunday, it'll be 4:30 at night, and therefore it'll be dark, so flying a plane in the dark doesn't make much sense when you're wanting to spread a message. So why not send it over the Etihad tomorrow, where arguably the biggest game of the weekend is being played, and Manchester City, of course, just happen to be one of those clubs that ultimately at the moment are getting away with their financial breaches. So, yeah, as I said, or certainly are not being investigated as thoroughly as what Everton were. Whether or not Manchester City are guilty, we'll wait and see, and it has to be said because they might not be guilty, but the situation is that they were being investigated long before Everton were, and Everton's was being concluded long before Manchester City's is going to be concluded. So, yeah, anyway, we're going to do a separate video, as I said, talking about all of the banners and all of the stuff that will be going on Sunday, because I think it deserves its own video to highlight it. But at the end of the day, there's a game of football to be played, and we are playing a side that, as I said, I've got a huge fan base, and we'll have a huge amount of eyes watching on Sunday afternoon, and ultimately a side that at the moment are doing quite well in recent times. Obviously, as I said, top of the form table for Manchester United. Always a strange one because, going into this game, if you would go in on the assumption that Manchester United are in terrible form, their manager's under pressure, they've had an awful start to the season, etc, 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 and that's because they are sitting in 6th position, which obviously for Manchester United Football Club is not acceptable. They're a football club that are born to win titles, and a lot of their fans are used to challenging at the top of the league. So sitting in 6th position isn't by any sense of the imagination acceptable for them. But also, I think a really interesting fact looking at now, they've not drawn a game all season. They've won 7 and lost 5. So they sit on 21 points after 12 games being played. Therefore, their losses, I think, have a little bit more of a dramatic effect because they're not drawing games. It's very much if you're not winning, you're losing, and therefore this creates this situation, at the football club where there becomes an awful lot of pressure on the manager and the players, etc, etc, etc. The reality of the situation is they are, towards the top of the form table. As I said, I think they are at the top of the form table, and whether or not they're winning those games by scraping through, as they did against Luton and as they've done in a couple recently, or whether they're winning games comfortably, at the end of the day, I understand Manchester United fans demand them to, turn up and beat teams fairly comfortably week in, week out, because that's what they're used to. But winning games is winning games, and this will not be, by any sense of the imagination, a particularly comfortable afternoon for Everton on Sunday. What I do think, pardon me, works massively in our favour is the fact that this is the first game since, obviously, the news broke about the points deduction, and therefore Goodison will be an absolute cauldron on Sunday, an absolute cauldron, and I personally would not want to be an opposition football club coming to Goodison over the next few months or so, because it would just be, as I've said in previous videos, the best thing. Oh, sorry about that. As I've said in previous videos, the best thing about the points deduction, the best thing about the situation that Everton are in now. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing. I don't buy into any of this. Oh, well, you should take it on the head because ultimately this is the worst Premier League season in years, so therefore you'll be okay and you'll still stay up. That doesn't matter to me. That's completely irrelevant. That is completely irrelevant. That's like saying, let's hit Fulham with a 10-point deduction because they'll probably still stay up, so let's hit them for the 10-point deduction because their dinner lady turned up 10 minutes late to work. It's an absolute nonsense excuse, but what I do think it'll do is something that Everton have struggled to do, and this football club have struggled to do for a number of years, and that is to get everybody together fighting in the same direction and fighting for the same thing, and have everybody working towards the same goal and almost rallying as one. It's an us versus everybody mentality, and the manager was asked about that in his press conference today, and he actually said, well, that's how it should always be, an us versus everybody mentality. But we know that isn't always the case. We know that, of course. We know that, over the last 2 years at this football club, it has been very divided, from the management to the playing staff to the fans to the board. everything about Everton Football Club has been divided over the last, sort of 12 to 24 months. And if this is the one thing that brings us all together, brings the manager, the players, the fans, the board together, as I've said, it's a completely different board to what it was, 12 months ago when we were all campaigning to get them out. Okay, it's an interim board at this moment, and I'm sure this board won't be around for an awful lot longer, but it is still a completely different board to what it was, 12 months ago when we clearly were incapable of, well, they were clearly incapable of running this football club. So, I don't fancy an awful lot of teams coming to Goodison between now and the end of the season, but that isn't to say that Everton are now going to go and win every home game between now and the end of the season, because, we all know football doesn't work like that. And ultimately, for as much as the fairy tale may be that we turn up on Sunday and, we make it a bear pit and we make it a cauldron, and Man United turn up and we beat them 3 or 4-0 and it's great. That is the fairy tale, and that is what, a lot of people will see happening. There won't be a lot of people, probably Manchester United fans included, there won't be a lot of people, Evertonians and general football fans, who fancy Manchester United on Sunday in the situation that they're in. But that doesn't mean that they can't turn up and get a result or get a performance. As I said, they're still a good team, sitting 6th in the Premier League, 7 wins, 5 draws, 21 points. Obviously, they beat Luton last time out, beat Fulham away before that in the Premier League. Last time they lost in the Premier League was towards the back end of October to City, 3-0 at home. So, it won't be a comfortable afternoon on the pitch, but what it will be is, for me, in my opinion, the best atmosphere that we've seen at Goodison Park for a number of years. Manchester United are also managerless for this game, of course, it has to be said. Erik ten Hag has got a touchline ban and therefore will not be available for this one. So I believe they will be managed by their assistants. I think Steve McLaren is one of them. I'm not too sure of the other, but yeah, they'll be managed by their assistant managers. And, who knows what effect that could have. The one question I have to regarding Manchester United at the moment is their mentality. Is their mentality good enough to be able to turn up at a fiery Goodison Park in the situation that they're in and be able to, stand up against that adversity and come out with a result? Well, hopefully not, because as I said, my interest isn't in Manchester United. My interest is in Everton, and the objective for Everton is, as I said before, for everybody to be fighting in the same direction, for the players, for the manager, and for the fans all to be on board for the same thing. And to be fair, I think we've seen a lot of that recently anyway, because of the fact that we've been winning games of football, because of the fact that the fans are starting to see what the manager is trying to do. The fans are starting to see why the manager's setting, up for certain games in certain ways and tactically setting up, and why he's making decisions on and off the pitch. So I do think there's been a general good feeling around the football club for a number of weeks now, regardless of needing to be brought together. I think we were quite together anyway. Because ultimately, if you're winning games of football, as a fan, you're going to be happy and you're going to want that to continue, and you're going to get behind the manager and you're going to get behind the team because they're doing what you expect them to do, turn up and win games of football. So I think we were quite together anyway, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this will bring everybody together on a completely different level, and we'll see an atmosphere at Goodison Park, in my opinion, on Sunday better than we've seen in a number of years, and we can only hope that translates onto the pitch, and then ultimately we come away with a positive result, because at the end of the day, the objective hasn't changed. Whilst, it might be a very different circumstance, because, we went into the international break sitting with 14 points in, 14th position with 14 points, absolutely flying, and 8 points above the relegation zone, something like that. And we've come out of the international break having not played a game of football on 4 points and sitting 19th in the Premier League. So, ultimately, this is a huge game, and winning is imperative. And if we do win on Sunday, there's a very good chance we'll climb out of that relegation zone already, even after the points deduction, which obviously will be a massive benefit for for Everton. So, yeah, the focus is on winning, and I'm sure every opposition touch will be booed heavily on Sunday. I'm sure every sliding challenge will be cheered like a goal, and I'm sure every goal will be celebrated, more than it's been celebrated for a long, long time. And It's ultimately down to the manager and these players to go out there and put in a positive result. I question Manchester United's mentality, I'll be honest. I think if Goodison is loud and is angry and is really, really aggressive, and Everton get a good start to the game, maybe get a goal early on, I question their mentality, and I think it could end up 3-4-0. I really do, I'll be honest. However, it could quite easily go the other way if we don't get a goal early on, or if the referee makes a bad decision. I've got no doubt in my mind that the referee will be 100% against Everton on Sunday, because he's employed by the Premier League, and the Premier League are against Everton. I've got no doubt in my mind. I think the suggestion that there is no agenda against Everton and the Premier League isn't corrupt at this point is quite baffling now. I think we're all starting to see, not only football fans, not only Evertonians, but there's a lot of people in the media who are now coming out and saying, this doesn't feel right and it doesn't feel fair. So, yeah, I've got no doubt in my mind that the referee on Sunday will be an absolute disgrace, and I will say that now on Friday before a ball has even been kicked. So it's ultimately down to Everton to be able to go out and put that performance in, and I don't see why we can't go out and do that. And if we do, then obviously the incentive is massive. We could be out of that relegation zone already, and then we start to look up again. We start to look to your teams like Fulham and Forest and Palace and Wolves, and we start to chase the pack again as we were prior to the points deduction. Anyway, let's get into the predicted starting 11, brought to you as always by Fan Hub. Go down below, check out the Fan Hub app, top line of the description. As I said, if you use the code THE-UBP, you'll get on there straight away. Fan Hub are constantly updating their apps. They're constantly adding new features such as being able to add pictures for match day photos. I didn't take one for the Brighton game, but I will definitely be taking one on Sunday. You can obviously join different communities. If you go and follow us over there at the Mighty Blues, we'll be following you all straight back instantly. As I said, completely free to get on. You can earn points on there. The way you earn points is by getting your predictions right. You can predict 5 fixtures. Here, I'm going to do mine really, really quick. Bang, 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 bang. Let's predict them. And if I get them right, obviously I will earn a load of points. You can exchange your points for clothing, things like t-shirts, things like hats, things like jumpers, and you can also exchange it for things like pints of Carling in certain pubs or in certain football stadiums. So go over there, check Fan Hub out. Really, really, really great app, of course. Yeah, let's get into our predicted starting 11 then. Got a couple of bonus things here from I think we got 11 out of 11 right for the game against Crystal Palace, so I've got a couple of bonuses. One of them is Super Sub. If you select a player that comes off the bench for your team first, you'll get an extra point, happy days. And another one is Poached. If you select a player that scores a goal anytime in the match, you will get an extra point, happy days. So let's go through the predicted starting 11. Before we do so, I just want to touch on Sean Dyche's press conference, because he made a couple of interesting updates on players' fitness and availability of certain players. Obviously, going into this one, he was asked about Amadou Onana. He said Amadou Onana hasn't trained with the team over the last few days. He's still nursing this calf injury. They don't believe it to be a serious issue, but his availability on Sunday is still in question because of it. He was obviously returned from international duty early because of this injury, and like I said, there is doubt around whether or not he will be fit enough to start on Sunday. The manager also gave a positive update on Seamus Coleman. He played 90 minutes in the week in an under-23s game, under-21s game, and the manager said that he's getting better, he's getting fitter, he come through that game brilliantly, and they hope that he will have some involvement on Sunday. Whether or not he will start, we'll wait and see, but I assume he will at least be a part of the matchday squad. So let's get straight into it. In goal, of course, without a doubt, Jordan Pickford. Obviously, he had a fairly decent international break. I know that England's results weren't particularly great, and as I've said numerous times on this channel before, I don't follow England. I don't care for England, so it's not something that I've kept a keen eye on. But I know he saved the penalty in one of the games, and obviously conceded the rebound, but I know he saved the penalty. He also come out after one of the games and refused to speak on the points deduction, or he refused to do an interview because he said, I know what you want me to talk about. You want me to talk about the points deduction. So bonus points for Jordan anyway before a ball is even being kicked on Sunday for that. That was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? So yeah, Jordan is in goal. Let's go left back then. Left back for me is very simple. Vitaly Mykolenko. Another fantastic performance against Crystal Palace. Another goal. Could have even got 2 goals had he have been a little bit luckier. Again, for me, I think Vitali has been absolutely brilliant of late. Pretty faultless as one-on-one defending has been perfect. He will come up against another couple of difficult, wingers on Sunday, and it's up to him to be able to do what he's done very, very well for the last 4 to 6 weeks, and that's keep them out, keep them away from goal, and keep them away from creating anything. And I'm confident he'll be able to do that, because there's no reason he shouldn't be able to do that. He's been absolutely fantastic of late. So next to him then at left centre back, Jared Branthwaite, captained England's under-21s during the international break at Goodison Park, so that's great for us. One of his games, obviously, in the internationals being at Goodison, home ground, a place that he knows very, very well. Absolutely fantastic so far this season. Still learning, and still, somebody that ultimately will have up and down moments and periods in games where he might look a bit shaky. He had a couple of them against Crystal Palace, but the reality of the situation is he's been absolutely fantastic recently, and he does not deserve to be taken out of this team in any sense of the imagination. So he is in there. Next to him then, obviously, James Tarkowski as usual. They're building that partnership there, and I don't see any real reason as to why that partnership should be broken up, I'll be perfectly honest. And then right back, I didn't mean to click Seamus Coleman. I did not mean to click Seamus Coleman. I think it will be... Where is he? Where's he gone? Ashley Young. I don't think Seamus will start this game. I think Seamus will be on the bench, and probably rightly so. I think throwing him in a deep end for this game would be a little bit silly. I don't think that would make much sense. And, as much as I would love to sit here and say Nathan Patterson will start, I want Nathan Patterson to start, he should start, I just don't think that will be the case. I'll be perfectly honest. I think it's more likely to be Ashley Young. So, anyway, into the midfield then. Sitting, I'm going to go with Adrissa Garner-Gay. Next to him, I'm going to go with James Garner. And then in sort of a that formation, if you like, maybe more of that, I'm going to go with Abdoulaye Doucouré. As I just mentioned, the manager stating in his press conference that Amadou Onana is still struggling from a calf injury. Nothing too serious, but he hasn't trained, usually as he would over the last sort of few days or so. Obviously, come back from international duty early. So, I just fear that he won't be available to start. He was taken off at half-time against Palace. Obviously, Garner come on and then scored the winning goal, which was absolutely fantastic. And, if Amadou isn't 100% fit and he isn't 100% ready and his performance is going to be affected by that, then I personally have no real issue playing Garner Gay in this game. Scored the goal against Palace, so his confidence will be through the roof. And I do think Garner's a big game player. I think he's a big moments player, and I think he's somebody to turn up in a situation like this when it's sort of everybody against Everton and the crowd are going to be up for it, and it's going to be a bear pit mentality. I think he could really thrive in that. So yeah, obviously James Garner next to him, pretty self-explanatory, coming up against his former club, of course, and then Abdoulaye Doucouré in the 10. Dukes has been absolutely fantastic of late, brilliant against Crystal Palace, and somebody that I think will have a big impact on this game on Sunday, a big impact. And then up front, forwards then, on the right-hand side, I am going with Jack Harrison. On the left-hand side, I'm going with Dwight McNeil. And up front, I'm going with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That front three that we've seen so much of late, I don't think they'll get broken up. I don't think Danjuma's done particularly enough to make a case for him to be in the starting 11. I'm not so sure Beto will be in there either. So I think that will be the front three going forward. I do, certainly for Sunday, and hopefully those front three can be as creative as they have been of late, and and pull us through and give us a much needed 3 points now, and even more needed 3 points than what it was 2 weeks ago. Let's do the bonuses then. Super sub player that comes on first for your team. I'm gonna go with. It's difficult this, because it obviously depends on the situation. It could be Seamus Coleman, it could be Michael Keane, it could be Beto, who knows. I'm going to go quite reserved and go Nathan Patterson, because he's typically somebody that comes on every week, and he's often somebody that maybe is the first substitute for Ashley Young on sort of 50-60 minutes, and then obviously that opens the floodgates for for a Beto to come on, or a Chimiti. It might well be Coleman because of the situation with Seamus, but we'll wait and see. And then poacher point if you select a player that scores any time in the match, I know my player for this one, Dwight McNeil. Dwight McNeil, 100%. Not had a great goal-scoring record of late. Obviously not being, let's just get it back up there, not being brilliant in front of goal, but fantastic last season, and I just get the feeling that he's going to, kickstart his tally for this season on Sunday. I really do. I don't know why. I've just got that feeling. So there you go. That is the predicted start 11 for the game on Sunday. Let us know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. As I said, don't forget to go and check out FanHub down in the description down below. Top line, download it for free. Use our code and you will get on there instantly. Go and follow us over there. We'll be following everybody back as soon as possible, so get over there. But yeah, that's about it. It will definitely be an interesting game, won't it? Like I said, I think the atmosphere will be unbelievable. I cannot wait to get down to Goodison Park. I wish it was tonight. I wish it was tomorrow morning. I absolutely cannot wait, because I think this will feel like it felt, when I was 10, 11 years old and it was the David Moyes days, and every atmosphere every week was unbelievable, and teams hated coming to Goodison, teams despised it. I think it will be very, very similar to that, and I absolutely cannot wait to experience that again, because it's been far too long, and I certainly will be one of those that will be chanting and screaming and holding up banners and holding up pieces of card, because I think the message is clear, and the message is that point deduction is in no way, shape or form appropriate for the rule break that Everton committed, and I think it proves that the Premier League is corrupt, and it's something I've said for a number of years on this channel, and it's something that we'll stick by. There's not a chance that this league is fair. It isn't. It's corrupt, and we're seeing it in front of our own eyes, and it's important that we stand up against that, and it's important that we use our togetherness to show that we will not stand for that, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what happens on Sunday. So there you go. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We will be back with the player ratings and instant match reaction on Sunday, so look out for those, and as I said, we'll have that video talking about some of the protests over the next couple of days as well, so join us for them. Big thanks for watching. Please do leave a like if you have enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.